She texts you just enough to keep you hooked, cancels plans with a sweet excuse, and still somehow makes you feel guilty for noticing. Sounds familiar? That's not bad luck. That's strategy. You've fallen into the quietest trap in modern dating, being the man she keeps on standby. But here's the twist. It's not her fault you're stuck there. It's yours, because you've been playing by rules that never favored you. If you've ever wondered why women chase one man but forget another, this is your wake-up call. In the next few minutes, I'll give you the 7 psychological steps that make a woman stop taking you for granted and start fighting for your attention. If you've ever been that man waiting for her text, wondering what changed, today is the day you stop waiting and start taking control. Before we move on, hit subscribe, like, and write one simple line in the comments. I'm done being an option. Say it out loud if you have to. That's your first step toward emotional reset. Because what comes next isn't theory. It's the start of your rebuild. And once you understand this first truth, everything about how you show up with women will start to shift. Number 1, read the room. If you've ever caught yourself waiting for her reply that never comes, replaying the same unanswered message on your phone, it's not bad luck. It's a pattern. You're being quietly downgraded. She's not saying it out loud, but every delay, every cancelled plan, every "sorry, got busy" is a silent signal. You're not the priority, you're the placeholder. When a woman's interest fades, she doesn't always leave. Sometimes she keeps you around just enough to feel wanted, without ever giving back the same energy. That's what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. It's when rewards are given inconsistently, just enough to keep you hooked, craving the next moment of affection. It's not love, it's emotional conditioning. The human brain reacts to uncertainty like a drug. Every time she disappears, then suddenly sends a "hey stranger" text, dopamine spikes. You confuse that high with connection, when really it's dependency. You start chasing that rush, not her, but the illusion of what you thought she felt. And that's how good men stay stuck. Here's the truth most men don't want to face. She doesn't keep you around because she needs you. She keeps you around because she can. Because you haven't shown her that your absence costs something. You're available, predictable, and replaceable. The perfect emotional safety net. And let's be honest, you've probably told yourself she's just busy, or that she'll come around. That's not optimism, that's denial. Every time you excuse her behavior, you teach her it's acceptable. Every time you stay, you tell her you'll tolerate being plan B. Reading the room isn't about being bitter or playing hard to get, it's about clarity. It's the moment you stop negotiating your worth with someone who's already discounted it. So ask yourself, is she making space for you or just keeping you in storage? If she's treating you like a background character in her story, then it's time you stop auditioning for a lead role. Number 2, the law of reciprocity. In every connection, romantic, professional, or social, value only exists when energy flows both ways. The moment you start pouring more than you receive, the balance breaks and respect collapses. Most men don't realize it until it's too late. When you keep showing up for someone who doesn't reciprocate, you stop being desirable and start being convenient. Reciprocity isn't some poetic concept, it's behavioral economics. When she gives less and still gets your full attention, her brain registers one thing. Your effort has no price. She learns that she doesn't need to try. She can give you crumbs and still get a feast of validation in return. That's not attraction. That's conditioning her to undervalue you. Think about the last time you texted first, apologized first, adjusted your schedule first, all while she gave the bare minimum. That's not generosity. That's self-neglect, dressed as kindness. Every time you reach out first, you're rewarding low effort. Every time you accept the imbalance, you're teaching her how little it takes to keep you around. If love is a currency, stop trading gold for her breadcrumbs. Your attention, time, and emotional energy are assets, not donations. The more you give them away without a return, the faster they lose their worth. Here's what psychology says. People mirror behavior that benefits them. When you stop over-investing, one of two things will happen. She'll either step up to match your energy, or she'll drift away because the free supply is gone. Either way, you win. You regain clarity. Pulling back isn't about punishment, it's about recalibration. You're not withdrawing love, you're re-establishing value. When your availability stops being guaranteed, she's forced to re-evaluate what your presence actually means. That's the shift. Remember this truth. Every time you reward low effort, you're reinforcing the behavior that made you feel small in the first place. Reciprocity isn't about ego. It's about emotional economy. When both sides invest fairly, respect compounds. When one side overpays, connection dies in debt. So from now on, don't beg for balance. Create it. Number 3, you come first. Here's something most men never realize until they've already lost themselves. The moment you start orbiting around her, you begin to fade from her sight. A man who builds his world around a woman eventually becomes invisible in it. You stop being magnetic and start being manageable. And once you're manageable, you're forgettable. Women aren't drawn to men who chase them. They're drawn to men who chase purpose. There's a psychological principle behind it. Self-orbit attraction. When a man radiates direction, focus, and internal gravity, people naturally align around him. But when he gives up that center, when his emotional balance depends on her attention, the polarity collapses. You stop being a man she's intrigued by and start being one she controls. Think of it like this. She's not the sun and you're not a planet in her orbit. You are your own gravity. Every goal you chase, every boundary you set, every decision you make, those are the elements that create your field. And that field either pulls people in or repels those who don't belong there. You want her to notice you again. Don't text more. Don't prove harder. Build stronger. Invest in your health, your ambition, your mission. Not for her, but because those things remind you of who you are when you're not seeking approval. That energy, the quiet, unbothered certainty, is what creates attraction. It signals value without words. Women subconsciously read social proof. When they sense that your world is full, that you're fulfilled, respected, desired, they feel an instinctive pull. It's not manipulation. It's magnetism. The same way people gather around a fire, not because the fire asks them to, but because it burns on its own. So stop orbiting her. Reclaim your gravity. You were never meant to revolve around someone's moods or schedules. The moment you step back into your own axis, that's when she notices the space you've created and the silence that used to belong to her. Because here's the paradox of attraction. The second she realizes you're fulfilled without her, that's when she starts chasing your attention. Number 4, the novelty factor. Predictability kills desire, not instantly, but slowly, like oxygen leaving a room. When a woman already knows what you'll say, when you'll reply, and how you'll react, you stop being a person she's drawn to and start being a pattern she's memorized. And the human brain doesn't crave what it already understands. It craves surprise. Psychologists call it habituation. It means the more familiar a stimulus becomes, the weaker the emotional response. The same joke stops being funny. The same touch stops feeling electric. The same conversation stops being exciting. You're not boring. You've just become predictable. Here's the part most men don't get. She's not losing interest because you did something wrong. She's losing interest because she can see your next move before you make it. When every reply comes instantly, every invitation feels expected, and every action follows a script, there's no tension left to pull her in. You don't have to disappear or play games. What you need is pattern disruption. Create moments that make her pause. Moments where she can't quite read you. Take a few hours before replying. End a conversation on your own terms. Try something new, unexpected, and unannounced. Do it not to provoke her, but to remind yourself that your time and energy have rhythm, not permanence. A man who is easy to read is easy to forget, but a man who carries an element of mystery, not secrecy, but depth, activates a different part of her brain. Dopamine spikes when the outcome is uncertain. She starts checking your profile, rereading messages, replaying your tone in her head. You've stopped being a script and become a story again. Mystery isn't manipulation. It's magnetic tension. It's the subtle art of keeping her curious, keeping her invested. The more she wonders, the more she feels. And that curiosity fuels attraction far stronger than validation ever could. So never let her feel like she solved you. Be the man she's still trying to figure out, not the one she's already defined. Predictability makes her comfortable. Unpredictability makes her intrigued. And between comfort and curiosity, desire will always choose curiosity. Number 5. Be the prize. The more accessible something is, the less it's valued. That's not cynicism. That's psychology. Scarcity bias, a proven behavioral truth, states that people assign higher worth to what feels limited. So when your time, attention, and emotional energy are always available, they stop being meaningful. You become a constant, and constants are invisible. When a woman knows she can reach you anytime, she stops reaching with intention. When she knows you'll answer immediately, she stops crafting her words carefully. When she knows you'll always forgive, she stops fearing the loss. That's not confidence on her part. It's conditioning on yours. Being the prize doesn't mean acting superior. It means understanding that your value is determined by how selectively you share yourself. You don't need to announce it. You simply adjust your behavior. You reply when you actually have the time. You share less, not because you're hiding, but because you've learned the difference between intimacy and exposure. A treasure loses its value when it's left in the open. What's rare feels sacred. What's constant feels common. When you become emotionally scarce, when you stop broadcasting your availability, she begins to feel your absence. And the human brain reacts to absence with curiosity, even anxiety. That's loss aversion in motion. We feel the pain of losing something twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining it. So when she senses that your attention is no longer guaranteed, her instincts awaken. She replays your last conversation. She starts to wonder if someone else has your focus now. It's not about jealousy. It's about recalibration. She's realizing your presence had a weight, and she took it for granted. The less she knows about what's next, the more she'll want to find out. That's not playing games. That's allowing space for tension to breathe. You're not punishing her with silence. You're reminding her that your energy is earned, not entitled. When your time and attention become rare, her interest becomes real. Because attraction isn't built on abundance, it's built on anticipation. And when you finally give her your focus again, it won't feel casual. It'll feel like a reward. Number 6, draw the line. Respect doesn't come from what you tolerate. It comes from what you refuse to. Every relationship, whether romantic or not, is a negotiation of boundaries, the invisible lines that teach others how to treat you. When those lines blur, connection turns into convenience, and the person who refuses to set standards becomes the one everyone tests. Let's be clear. Boundaries aren't ultimatums. They're not threats, demands, or emotional walls. They're quiet declarations of self-worth. When you draw the line, you're not saying, "Don't cross me." You're saying, "This is the level of access my peace requires." It's not about control, it's about clarity. Take something simple. She cancels plans for the third time. Most men respond emotionally. They argue, chase, or beg. But strength isn't in the reaction. It's in the restraint. Silence, distance, and consistency communicate far more than confrontation ever will. When your energy stops being reactive, your absence starts speaking louder than your words. Psychologists call it psychological reactance. When someone senses they're losing freedom, they instinctively desire what's slipping away. So when you withdraw calmly, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, she starts to feel that shift. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer waiting. You've drawn a line. And suddenly, she has to decide if she's willing to step back across it. A man without boundaries is like a door that never closes. Easy to enter, easier to leave. Every time you let someone cross your limits without consequence, you're not being kind. You're being complicit in your own neglect. Here's the truth most men never learn. Consistency builds credibility. When your boundaries stay firm, your presence starts to mean something again. People, including her, respect what they can't manipulate. So next time she pushes, don't explain your worth. Show it. Don't argue your standards. Enforce them quietly. The power isn't in telling her what you'll no longer accept. It's in showing her that you mean it. When she knows your standards, she'll rise to meet them or step aside. Either outcome protects your peace. And that's how boundaries stop being rules and start becoming respect. 7. Show her what she could lose. Every man wants to be wanted, but few understand the difference between being wanted and being needed. The first is temporary, based on attention, novelty, or charm. The second is deeper, built on the kind of value that can't be replicated once it's gone. Irreplaceability isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about becoming the man whose absence echoes louder than his words ever did. So how do you reach that point? By becoming whole, not dependent, not performative, but anchored. Irreplaceable men share 3 traits: emotional depth, stability, and vision. They don't chase connection, they create gravity. They bring clarity to chaos, calm to intensity, and purpose to uncertainty. That's what makes a woman pause before she walks away. Because deep down, she knows she may find someone new, but she won't find this. When you offer emotional depth, you give her safety. When you embody stability, you become her peace. And when you have vision, when you're building something greater than the relationship itself, you become her inspiration. Those 3 things form the foundation of masculine energy that can't be duplicated. Every woman remembers the man who made her feel safe and slightly scared to lose him. Not because he threatened to leave, but because his presence carried weight. He didn't need to prove his worth. He lived it. His silence spoke louder than any declaration. His focus made her realize she was part of something rare. You don't win her by proving you're the best. You win her by being the one she can't forget. The one who touched her life with certainty, not need. When you operate from abundance, not scarcity, you stop competing with other men entirely. You exist in a category of your own. And here's the paradox of power. The moment she realizes losing you would mean losing her balance, that's when you've become the priority. Because true influence doesn't come from chasing attention. It comes from embodying value so solid that attention chases you. That's the man she doesn't play games with. That's the man she rethinks everything for. And that's the man you're becoming. You started this video wondering why she treats you like an option. Why you feel like the man she calls when she's bored, but forgets when she's busy. Now you know the truth. It was never just about her choices. It was about your boundaries, your energy, and what you taught her to expect. Because in every relationship, spoken or not, you're teaching people how to value you. Every unanswered message you accept, every cancelled plan you forgive without consequence, every time you overextend to prove your worth, you write the script of how you'll be treated. And the good news? You can rewrite it anytime. You don't need to chase, convince, or negotiate for attention. You only need to remember this. You teach people how to value you by the way you value yourself. When you start showing up like a man who knows his worth, you won't have to demand respect. It will arrive uninvited. Look back at where you began, the guy who waited for her texts, who accepted uncertainty as affection. That man doesn't exist anymore. You've learned to read the room, balance reciprocity, and reclaim your gravity. You've discovered that mystery isn't manipulation, it's magnetic. You've drawn lines that protect your peace and built presence that commands attention. Now, you're not the guy she calls when she's bored. You're the man she can't stop thinking about. The one whose silence says more than his words ever could. The one whose absence feels heavier than his presence ever did. And remember this: when you know your worth, silence becomes your weapon, distance becomes your language, and scarcity becomes your power. You're not being cold, you're being clear. If this message hit you hard, it's because you needed to hear it. Don't just listen to it. Live it. Walk with it. Let it reshape the way you show up in every connection you have. Subscribe to this channel because here we don't chase approval. We study psychology, master energy, and reclaim emotional power. I'll see you in the next one.